Welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at creating a section view drawing. Now, a section view drawing allows us to see the internal structure of a part. As you can see, we're going to be utilizing a basic section view. And this particular isometric style drawing is not one that we're going to copy. We're going to be creating the orthographic views based on this isometric. And that's where a lot of students go awry, is they think they need to create what they see and not actually what the drawing is, which is an orthographic representation of the section. I'll put this drawing in the corner of our sheet, so as we create, you'll be able to refer to it. So to begin our drawing, we're going to go ahead and start our drawing. Going to go through the setup processes very quickly, and we'll move from there. So startup processes, going to go to units, set our decimal precision. Looking at the drawing, we've got 2 decimal places, so we're going to set our decimal precision to 2 decimal places. We'll choose OK. Second is polar tracking. We'll turn polar tracking on. We'll set it for 5 degrees, and we'll come over here to our object snaps, verify that our object snap settings are endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, extension, and perpendicular. Perfect. Lastly, we need to set up layers. When we set up our layers, we're going to have an object layer. We'll have a section layer. We'll have a hidden line layer. We'll have a dimension layer. And a center line layer. So again, changing colors. We use the darker orange on this. Center lines are green. Dimension lines are usually a bluish purple. Hidden lines, we'll make those magenta. And our section drawing, we'll make that a reddish orange or brown. Nope, that's a little bit too close to that. We'll make it darker red. Okay. So section hidden, if we need to change them, we will. Line types, we need to change the line type on our center lines, and this is a pretty small drawing, so we're going to use the center 2 half scale line type. Section lines are going to be continuous, so we don't need to change our line type on those. However, our line weights, we're going to increase our line weight to 1/2 millimeter for our object lines. And that will pretty much set up our drawing environment. We'll close, and we'll work from there. So initially, we always start with center lines. So I'm going to start with the center line layer. We're going to draw a center line vertically, because our drawing is going to be based along the center line. And so when we create this object, since it's a round object, we're going to be drawing the top view and the front view. And the front view is going to be in section. Actually, it's going to be called half section because we're only going to cut out 1/4 of the object. A full section is an object cut in half. A half section is an object cut in 1/4. I know it's kind of odd, but that's the structure and how it works. It actually does make sense. Full meaning a full half cut through an object. Half meaning half of that full cut. So if you think about it that way, it does actually make sense. So what we're going to do is we'll begin and put another center line up top for our circles. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the object layer. And we'll draw some circles up top just to get us started. And we'll draw the outside shape based on this intersection, and the exterior circle is 2.5 inch diameter. Uh-oh. So the center line didn't extend all the way past. So I'm going to go ahead and grip it and extend it a little bit farther on both sides, so that way it intersects the larger circle. The interior circle, intersection. Notice that I want to make sure that I don't pick midpoint, but I want to pick the intersectional line. This is 1.88. And the interior small hole is 0.88. So we've got one more circle here. Let's find the intersection. If we have to zoom up, notice that the midpoint is not where the intersection is. And so we could fix that issue by moving the midpoint. And to do that, I can grip the center line, move the center line so the midpoint now falls on that vertical center line. So that's our top view drawing currently. We're not done yet, but that's our top view just to get our overall shape. If we hold the mouse button down, we can pan down a little bit, and we'll begin the front view. So creating the front view is kind of easy. Why? Because I've already got the intersection locations that I can project down. So I'll start the front view about here. That gives us enough room. And the overall height of this object is 3 inches. So we pick the starting spot. We'll go down 3 inches, point and shoot, 3.0. And so we created a 3-inch line. We'll then come across to the other side, which is the other intersection. Uh-oh, we've got a problem. It's a common problem that occurs all the time. You know, I just drew these circles, and these circles are in diameter, but I drew them as based in radius. So what do I need to do? Well, I should be able to just go to scale, pick all these circles, pick the scaling point, which is the intersection or the midpoint now, and type in 0.50 and scale them down by half. Because half of the diameter is the radius. And so I made the circles twice the size they were needed to be. So things like this do happen. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this line here. I was looking at it going, this seems awful big. And so we'll try this again. We'll project this down, find the starting spot, 3 inches. Come across to the other side, project it over to that intersection point, and then we'll draw a line 3 inches at 90 degrees. Okay, so now we've got our basic drawing shape. We're not going to draw the top yet because the top is cut out in a section-oriented view. So the thickness of the object here shows that it is a 1/4 inch, and the bottom is 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come in 0.25, and I don't know where that intersection point is, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. I'm going to offset the bottom, so using the offset command, 0.375 will offset the bottom, and now I can find that intersection point here. That's perpendicular. I'll have to do the same thing on the other side. And since this object is circular, we will have a line across the top in the middle. Alright, so now I've got to clean up the corners. So we'll move the corners in. that's easy to be done via the grip environment. And so our notch is 1.25 inches below the top, so 1.25. So I just did an offset command. I'm going to offset this line down 1.25. Now, the hole in the middle is projected from one side, and we're projecting it straight down here from the top view. And that's what makes it so easy to draw the circles first, is that I can use it to project the position of that. So that's the hole. Now, there is a keyway in this object. So this keyway happens to be 1 inch total distance from one end to the other, and it's a 1/4 inch wide. And oh, I made a mistake. This is supposed to be 3/8 and not 1/4. So let's go ahead and offset 0.375. We'll clean this up here really quick. This offsets in, this offsets in. I'll delete this line here, and things don't always go as planned. So we'll fix the corners here. Notice what I'm doing is I'm just gripping and moving the lines. That's all I did, was grip and move the lines. And I'll do the same thing here, is I'll grip and shift the line. Okay, sorry, sometimes when you're looking at these prints, you misread them. And the big thing is you want to catch those errors. So we've got a keyway, and the width here is 1/4 inch, so I can offset the center line 0.125 each side. So the center line is going to become the location of where that keyway is. So I'll just draw a line over the center line here, and then I'll delete those extra center lines. Many times you have to draw extra objects so you can create the shape that you need. So that's the keyway that we're looking at. So when we cut the object, and we've got this that comes across here because that's the other side of the notch. So when we cut this object, this side is going to be sectioned. This side will remain whole. So there's some cleanup that I'll end up doing here on this side ultimately. However, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a line drawn here down the middle. This is all going to be hidden lines. This is going to be visible lines, is what will happen. But it's easier to draw it this way first and then change these to hidden lines and so forth. You know what? I bet you we forgot to put hidden lines on our layer properties. But we'll find that out in a minute. So now we've got to section this area, so we actually get to see what the sectioning lines look like. So I'm going to switch over to the section layer, and there's this tool here called hatch, and hatch is what the section patterning looks like. So I'm going to click the hatch, and we're going to use ANSI 131 or ANSI 31, which is a steel based hatch pattern. Basically it's a 45-degree angled line. And what it will do is it'll show me what the scale is going to look like here just by putting my pointer on that. If I pick ANSI 32, it would show me what that one would look like. But ANSI 31 is the standard that we use. As long as your object does not have that same angle, in this case 45 degrees, which is what ANSI 31 is at, you can use ANSI 31 as your sectioning line. If it does have a 45-degree angle on it, you'll want to change and use a different angle of rotation. And typically it's 30, 60, 90, 45 are the basic settings. You could then move to 22.5 and 15 degrees if necessary. And again, you want to make sure that you do not align the section lines with an angled surface. There's significantly more rules relating to section lines and where they're viewed and how they're created in drafting textbooks and guides and online. So you can look up section views and check out some of the basic properties of how section views are created and drawn. So we're going to go ahead and apply the section lines here, and that's it. It's that easy. We close our hatch pattern, and now we've got the section view. So now we have to change this side, and I'm going to turn the grid off just to make it a little bit easier to see. I'm going to go ahead and go to customization, turn my grid back on, and turn it off just so you can see it. This makes it a little bit easier to see what we're creating and drawing. So now what we need to do is create this half in section, which is the right side, and the left half is going to be solid. So we're going to draw a line right down the center because that's where it got cut. And you have to think about section views, and we need to change this line back to the object layer. We have to think of section views as actually cutting the object. And that's a good visualization to think about. When you cut into something, let's say an orange or an apple, and you want to cut a quarter out of that apple. So instead of cutting the apple all the way in half, just cut to the center and make a 90-degree pie wedge out of it. Pick up the apple, take a look at it. You're looking at a half section of an apple now. If you cut the apple fully in half, you're looking at a full section of the apple. It's a good visual that you can use to help understand what we're trying to accomplish here. So everything to the left-hand side that has a small line is going to be hidden lines. So we're going to have to make all these hidden lines. We have to make additional, we forgot to do that. But notice that if we make this line a hidden line, it's going to select everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this back to the center, and we're going to redraw another segment just so this one can become a hidden line. Because again, we want to make sure that hidden lines are on the left-hand side only. Now the outside shape is still an object line, but the inside are hidden lines. And notice that hidden lines aren't dashed yet. Guess what? We forgot to do layer properties. So hidden lines should have hidden to line type. So we're going to go ahead and load hidden to on the line type. That'll be half scale, and I'll select it again. This is why we do layers. Look at how easy that was for me to set that up. So now we've got the hidden to line type set, and we're looking at a half section of our object. So the right side's in section view, the left side's in solid view. And so now we've got to finish the upper drawing. So that way the upper drawing has the keyway that's set, which is and the slots that we're working with. So the slots are roughly a ½ in width. I'm going to use the offset command to make those happen first. And the way we're going to do that, we'll go ahead and offset 0.25. The way we're going to do that is use our center lines and offset them a ¼ inch, because the radius is a ¼ inch, so basically the center setting is that. Now, what we need to do is draw lines. So we have to draw a line from the intersection here to the intersection. Repeat the line. Notice that I just right mouse click to get the line repeat. Right mouse click enter. Right mouse click repeat line. Use the pan command by holding the wheel of the mouse down. And we're drawing lines where I just offset to the intersection points along the drawing. Repeat line, and repeat line. One more to go. repeat line, right mouse click, enter, right mouse click, repeat line. It's a little bit faster than having to go up to the top of the screen and picking a line each time. Let's go ahead and delete out the extra center lines. And so now you can see where the slots are in our drawing environment. Last thing we have is the keyway. Now the keyway is 1 inch from this location here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a construction line and point and shoot 1.0 inches. What that does is I picked an intersection point, drew a line that's 1 inch here, and I'll draw a line off to the side here. So now I know exactly where that position is. The width of the keyway is 0.25, so we can offset the center line 0.125, or half that overall width, 0.125, and we'll offset the keyway that width. We'll draw an intersection from here to that intersection, but I need to go ahead and grip this, extend it to make sure it's perpendicular, and make sure that I select the intersection. It was a little bit of an overhang there. We'll go ahead and pick the line command and draw another line, and then delete the offset center lines. We still need to trim this section out here, and we need to get rid of this construction line that we did the 1 inch to find the overall distance. But we need to trim this out. So we're going to use the trim command. So the trim command allows us to pick cutting edges. So selecting the cutting edges, I'm going to use this as a cutting edge and this as a cutting edge. And so it's going to cut the surface between those two. Whenever you're done selecting objects, you right mouse click. Now I'm going to select the object I want to remove. Notice what happens is it turns light gray. Another new feature in AutoCAD. And we choose right mouse click and enter. So there's the keyway. And so in our drawing we see the keyway here, and the hole is indicated there. The slots, we cut the slots. We have to finish the slot here on the back side. So to do that, we know that the slot will come down, highlight it, bring it straight down. So the slot's going to start here, and it's going to come down 1.25. Oh boy, we've got another error. We'll show you what that error is in just a second. Not a big one, just a little one that we can fix. And we have to do the same thing to the other side. These are common errors that you're going to see and you are going to do. As you continue to read the drawing, you'll get better and better at seeing these little things. So we have to create the bottom part of the arc, which is what we didn't do before. Now we can use the arc command, and if you use the arc command, you're going to pick things like start, end, direction, which will work really well for our half circle. Start point, end point, and then as long as you go directly 90 degrees, you'll create a perfect arc. Here's the deal. This section view needs to actually be down here at the bottom, and this one too. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grip this, pick the middle. I'm going to highlight this intersection and bring it across. And this is one of those chew gum, jump on one foot kind of thing, because you have to do two things at once. So slow motion instant replay here. So I grip this object, pick the center so I can move it, move the whole line. But I want to move the whole line based on this intersection. And so I need to bring that intersection point straight across and make sure it's perfectly vertical. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at the numbers, polar 270, intersection 180. Is that a 90-degree intersection? Absolutely. Make sure you don't touch the mouse or breathe on it, because if you move it, it's going to change the angle. And very lightly left mouse click. Congratulations, you just shifted that down. We can do the same thing now with this side. So I'm going to grip this line, grip the middle, come over here, pick this end point, bring it straight across, find that intersection again, 0 and 270. Perfect, that's a 90-degree intersection. Left mouse click, hold it. Those section lines just updated automatically, didn't they? How cool is that? So if you change that surface area, or you change that boundary, because we gripped and moved that boundary of that sectioned area, it will automatically update. Very nice. This also means that we need to edit this line, at least partially. And we're going to have to break out this arc, and oh yeah, this is going to have to become hidden here on this side. And half of this arc is going to have to become hidden. So we are going to need to break this line at that point. So there is a command that is called the break command, and it's called break at the point. So we're going to go ahead and pick the object and then pick the point at which we need to break it. So we're going to pick the break at point. We're going to pick the arc off to the side here. Let me magnify it so you can see what's going to happen here. We're going to pick it off to the side. Now the second point is immediate. We have to pick the point that we want to break it into, which is right here at this intersection. This is now a separate arc. That is now a separate arc. So we just broke that arc in half, and now I can change it from an object line to a hidden line. Because remember, everything to the left-hand side has to be hidden. Everything to the right-hand side is going to be solid. I take that back. Because if we're looking at this, we're going to see this half. So these actually do need to be solid objects, because we're going to see that. But this line will come down. There we go. So that looks better. And we have to trim this section out here. Again, just tweaking the drawing as we go along, getting it to be correct in the interpretation of the section view. So now we've taken this isometric section with the sketchy drawing and the somewhat difficult to see dimensions and created an orthographic section view. The next step would be to put dimensions on it, put it on a layout with a template, print it out, and turn it in. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this center line up just a little bit here so it looks a little bit cleaner. Bring it into my view and hit escape. But that's how you create a section view. Not the isometric view, but an orthographic view with sectioning taking place. Have a great day.